All right, my friends, welcome back to Prepping with Sarge. So today I have a little bit different video for you. We're going to talk about, if you're bugging out or you're trying to get home, what do you do when you encounter a homeless camp? And what's the proper etiquette for dealing with this? So this is a project that I'd wanted to do for a while. I had filmed some footage, but we never really got back to doing it. So this is going to include some footage from today that I hadn't planned, as I was just out wandering around and trying to find some wild edibles in a new location. And I stumbled across a camp back here that I will show you in just a minute. And also some footage that I filmed a while back. It's going to be an interesting video if you are at all interested in topics about bugging out or getting home after like a really bad situation where vehicle traffic was not possible, like an EMP or a coronal mass ejection or something like that. I think you're going to find this one interesting. Stay with me now. Hey guys, I'm out here. I was doing a little off path exploring, and I actually stumbled across an abandoned homeless camp. So just wanted to kind of do a quick film. Sometimes when you're hiking, when you're a wanderer like me, you will come across stuff like this, and just be careful, keep your wits about you. It's like you're wandering out into somebody's home, really. So there's a tent. It looks like this one's been abandoned for a while, but always just be very, very careful when you're coming up on a situation like this, because if somebody busted into your home, I'll just kind of get another look, give you a little look here. Obviously, there's a lot of water. It looks like maybe there was a fire pit or something out here, a little cooking kettle, and it looks like it's been abandoned for a while. But you never know. So if somebody popped into your home, right? You don't want to see what's over here, guys. It's their waste and whatnot. You'd start getting into defensive mode. So usually if I start seeing stuff like this, I'll just kind of announce myself and say, hey, anybody around? I'm not looking for trouble or anything like that. It's not the police. And my experience, because I deal with the homeless population a lot. As long as you're not out to give them any trouble, you're probably going to have a good encounter. So just be careful while you're out there, folks. I'm going to go ahead and get out of this guy's home just in case it's not completely abandoned, or he's maybe moved 75, 100 feet off of here and I'm just not seeing him. So we're just going to back out. Just wanted to show you that real quick. All right, so we are back on the main path here. So I was just kind of wandering around today, new location, scouting for some edible plants and medicinal plants. And I did find some out there, which I don't know if the person who was out there knew what they were sitting on, but I saw some false hawksbeard and dwarf palmetto berries. There was definitely some food and some medicinal plants over there. Whether or not that person that was living out there knew that, is who knows. So, but let's actually talk about this. I think I had planned to do a video about being a prepper and what if you had to bug out, right? Like, so we talk about in the prepping world, we sometimes talk about bugging out and what that would look like. So I have lived in the county, like way out in the country when I was in Kentucky, but I have also, like, now I'm living more in a urban area, and you guys may even be able to hear traffic in the background here. It's hard for me to tell as I'm recording what you're picking up. But, I kind of know where most of the abandoned buildings are and that kind of thing in my area. We do have here in South Carolina, because it's warm most of the year, we have a lot of homeless people. And some of you all know that I work in the field of mental health. I'm a licensed therapist, so I have some pretty good experience. You never know. There's a lot of reasons why a person might be homeless. Some people are homeless by choice. There's a lot of people who live in their car. It's not always necessarily a mental illness. Some people, they've made some bad choices in their life, and they can't find an apartment that will let them pass a background check, even though maybe they've paid their debt and they're, trying to do better. Some people have anxiety issues and they don't like to be around other people. Some people have, I actually have had a few people that I've known that had adopted a dog, and because they like a pit bull or something like that, and because there's a lot of prejudice against certain breeds of dogs, they couldn't find an apartment that would let them live there. So they said, I'm not, and I have big time respect for this. They said, I'm not going to abandon my dog. That dog's my family. I'd rather live outside in a tent than to give that dog up for adoption or whatever. So big respect for people that ohana means family, right? And family means nobody gets left behind. And we, in our household, our pets are absolutely family, right? You've heard me talk about that before. So let's do a video here, I guess. Let's talk about when you're out and you're, if you're bugging out, or if you're just a hiker, or you're a wanderer, or whatever, and you happen to come across a little homeless camp, right? So what you need to know is there is some etiquette that goes along with that. I know some people may be looking at, well, that's not their home, but from their perspective, it is. So just be aware that they're used to, this is my experience working with this population a lot, they are used to being victimized by people often, right? So people will, because they don't get, a lot of help from the system, or they choose to not get help from the system, however you want to look at that. They a lot of times people go in there and just like cause trouble for them, fight them, all kinds of steal from them. Like I've had, you would think like, this person doesn't have a lot of worldly possessions. People will come in and take their sleeping bag. I mean, it's just awful. So most of them that I've worked with do know how to defend themselves, rest assured. And many of them do carry at least a knife, sometimes something other than that. So you do need to be careful. It's like you're stepping into somebody's house. So the way that and sometimes as part of my job, I'm challenged with going out and connecting with these people and trying to see, is there any services that we can give them? Is there any help that we can give them? If you're doing it like that with mental health, maybe who you work for gives you the luxury of bringing in a partner and going in, not alone. Definitely you would want to kind of wear some, don't go in there with, like, if you're a therapist that does outreach for that kind of thing, you're not going to wear a suit. So I'm going to wear, something like this, like, kind of gray manish for the area. So I got a hoodie and a hat, and I didn't plan to come across that camp today, but that's how you would do it, right? Sneakers, jeans, whatever. And usually you're going to announce like, hey, if you notice you got a camp, and I could tell I was coming up on somebody's camp. There was, more and more evidence of humans being back there, water bottles, things like that. So I knew that I was going to encounter something, and it looked to me like I was going to be abandoned. But so you're going to kind of, as you're approaching, whether it's an abandoned building or somebody squatting in a building or an outside camp like that, just want to kind of announce your presence and say, hey, is anybody around? I'm not looking for trouble, right? And be aware that a lot of times people will group up. So you may think you're dealing with one person who comes out to deal with you, and there's somebody else that's like running Overwatch in the bushes, and you may not see them. So don't come in with aggressive, like, hey, you can't be out here. Just don't do that. Be respectful. Just be respectful and treat it as if, like, if somebody accidentally walked into your house, right? How do you think you'd feel? Okay, so that's kind of how the situation is. So when I'm going out to meet people like that, I'll say, hey, is anybody out here? I'm a therapist. I'm just looking to, see if you guys need any help. I'm not looking for trouble. I'm not police, because a lot of times they don't want to deal with police, because their experience has been that, the police will come in and kind of disrupt their camp and make them move. Okay, just giving you their perspective of it. So be respectful. Now, if you're bugging out, right, or you're, a lot of us in the prepping community, we talk about getting home, right? So like if you're out on a road trip, you're out traveling, and for some reason you had to, walk your way back, right? Like let's say there was a coronal mass ejection or an EMP, or, the roads are blocked from civil unrest, and you had to walk your way home. So you may end up having to encounter some of these camps. You may end up taking shortcuts, things like that. So just kind of be aware that there's a right etiquette for how to approach this. Now, if you did, let's say you had a long journey home, like if you've read the book Going Home, which is a fantastic read, you may decide, you know what, I have to rest for the night. I'm going to squat over in this abandoned building, or I'm going to see if I can, pass through this camp. A good thing to do would be to, if you've got some food or water, or ibuprofen or cigarettes, if you smoke, things like that, is to offer some of your resources in exchange for a place to stay for the night, right? Be respectful, ask permission, because again, from their perspective, that's their house, okay? And it's, knowing the homeless in your area, or if you encounter them like in a really bad SHTF situation where you're trying to bug out or whatever, they can be a really good resource, because guess what? They know all the shortcuts. They know like which way the power lines will connect. So, maybe you don't want to travel on the main roads in a really bad situation, right? So maybe you're going to have to take some off the beaten paths. And so they know which points connect through the power lines, through the railway lines, things like that. Maybe you're even going to you're going to build a little raft, and you're going to kind of go along like the river like that. And you can actually make better time than if you're walking through a city that's full of civil unrest. Just some different options. So they can be really helpful. They can tell you, a lot of times they can tell you where the fresh water is. They can tell you where to get some food. So be aware of that. I mean, I think a lot of people neglect that in the prepping community, that, they think, oh, well, I'm going to bug out here, I'm going to bug out there. Listen, okay? If you wander, if you hike, if you go outside and you kind of check out these off the path places, what are you going to find? There's already people who know your bug out location, 100% guaranteed. Okay, and guess what? They're probably either going to be already there when you pass through, or not. And you don't need to necessarily. I mean, unless if you own the property, you deal with that how you think you need to deal with that. But it's the best solution is typically not to go in with like an aggressive, this is my area kind of thing, or you don't belong here, that kind of thing. Just be respectful, especially, in the cases that we're talking about here, you're just passing through, okay? So they don't want a disruption to what they're trying to do and their safety and their survival, and you're just trying to get home, right? Or you're trying to get out of there. All right, I hope that makes sense. I wasn't planning a video like this today. I know I had talked to one of the other prepping channels about collaborating on this, and we actually did film some footage from other homeless camps, but we just tabled that. So I'm gonna throw maybe a couple clips at the end of this here, because I think it's interesting, and we've kind of abandoned that project, and I saved some footage, but didn't really know what I was gonna do with it. All right. And the next few video clips here you'll see are from some footage that I was going to use for collaboration that the project just kind of, we tabled it for now. So I'm going to throw some of this in here for now. And it's from other locations from several months back when we were working on this project together. So let's talk a little bit about how you can identify if an area is already being occupied, right? Because you kind of need to know that. You kind of need to know before you walk through an area of the city where maybe a lot of buildings have been boarded up, things like that. Or if you're walking home through a rural area, where are the communities that are displaced? Maybe they're, if you know where a bug out location is, right? Because all of us who are in the preparedness community, we have scouted out areas where if I had to go and bug out for a little while, this is where I'd go. Well, guess what? They know those areas too. And if it's near fresh water, you can guarantee that they have either scouted it out themselves, or there's already people living close enough to that you're going to encounter them. Okay, so if you're approaching an abandoned building like this, how do you tell if there's been people living in there, right? So if there's been people squatting in there. So this one in particular, there are homeless people living in here. And I know this because this is part of a neighborhood that I go through, and I've seen them going in and out of the building. See that boarded up window over on the right? That actually can kind of peel away just a little bit, and that's how they're entering in and out. This used to be, I think, a Captain D's restaurant, and whoever owns this property isn't checking on it. So there's people, this is what will happen, is there's people who will look for a safe place to get shelter. So also look in front of the building here. I'm gonna see if I can blow this up a little. See how there's a little bit of trash there right in the center of the screen, and then over there right in the center of the screen. I'm gonna show you one other location. Okay, this is the same abandoned building here, by the way, just a different part of the building. See how there's some canned goods there, and I would bet you that behind that door, sometimes they're stashing a few things if they're just kind of walking away from it for a little bit, but they know they're coming back. Okay, so another telltale sign that somebody's obviously coming through here and staying here. All right, here's another location. This is another abandoned building that whoever owns this is not checking on it, and people have been squatting inside here. Right now, there's nobody home, or else I wouldn't be filming like this, because it would start to make them a little bit agitated, as you can imagine, if somebody pulled up in front of where you were living and started filming. So I know there's people that are going in and out of here, again, because these are the neighborhoods that I work in and that I travel through. Right now, there's nobody here. So let me show you, I'm gonna pull around back here, show you how I think they got the door open. Okay, so that's pretty obvious. Look right in the center of the screen there. You can see they smashed it, and then all they had to do is reach in and unlock it. So now somebody is living in here, and has been actually for quite a while. So some other signs that there's actually been people living in and out of these buildings, even if I didn't know that, you will typically find like some clothing strewn around the property. A lot of times when people are displaced, they don't have a good way to wash their clothes. So when it's their, when they need to change, they'll kind of just discard it and grab something out of like a Goodwill bin or something like that. So this property, as I was driving around it here, there definitely was several t-shirts, water bottles, things like that, kind of strewn around. And sometimes graffiti might mark a location for, certain groups, not always though. But outside, so like I've also encountered, and if you're an outdoorsy person and you do hiking into remote locations, you will also find some camps, and some of your viewers may have seen this before. We've found tents and hammocks and things like that in the woods. And this is not even when as part of my job when I was out looking. This is just like me being a recreational person who likes to go out and play in the woods. I've come across stuff like that. And so if you come across a location like that, you definitely don't want to just kind of barge in, because think about how, I know it's not the same thing, right? I know this is squatting, right? But think about if somebody just like barged into your house, how you would react, right? You'd immediately go into fight mode, right? Maybe flight, maybe freeze, but most of us in the preparedness community are going to go into fight mode. All right, I thank you so much for staying with me through the entire video. If you haven't already done so, please drop a like. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. I drop videos at least twice a week about topics related to preparedness. Keep planting your seeds, keep stacking your silver. This is Prepping with Sarge.